The media tell you London property always goes up, safe as houses, the greatest store of wealth in the world, bricks and mortar. You cannot go wrong. Well, right now in 2026, there are 10 London areas where the opposite is happening, where official land registry data shows prices down 10, 12, 14, even 27% in a single year, where sellers are accepting offers 10, 15, 20% below asking price just to complete a sale, where properties that cost £1 million in 2022 are completing today at £700,000, and the seller is grateful to get it. This is not a forecast. This is not a prediction. This is what the ONS data published in the last 90 days actually shows. And if you are a buyer who has been sitting on the sidelines, waiting for your moment in the London property market, that moment has a name, and it is called right now. Today, we are counting down 10 London areas where home prices have fallen sharply from their peak, where motivated sellers are negotiating hard, and where the patient buyer who does the work is walking into properties at discounts that have not been available in this city since 2009. If you are thinking about buying in London, you need to watch this. If someone in your family is about to buy in London and they have not seen this data, send them this video. And if you are just here to understand what is actually happening to this city's property market in 2026, welcome. Let's get into it. Hammersmith and Fulham is a West London borough sitting between Kensington and Chiswick. Good tube connections, Victorian housing stock, the kind of address that was supposed to be recession-proof because of where it sits on the London map. The average house price in Hammersmith and Fulham was £728,000 in February 2026, down 7.5% from a year earlier. That is official ONS data from the UK House Price Index. In a borough where the average home costs £728,000, that is a fall of roughly £59,000 in a single year. Break it down by property type and the picture sharpens. Flats in Hammersmith and Fulham fell 8.6% in the same period. And for new build flats, analysis by Hamptons found that 2/3 of all new build flat owners who sold in this borough in 2025 sold at a loss. 2/3. What does that mean for a buyer? It means sellers are motivated. The negotiating dynamic has completely reversed from 2021 and 2022. A seller who bought a new build flat at peak pricing and needs to move is not holding out for full asking price. They are accepting realistic offers from buyers who have done their homework. The Victorian terraced houses and garden flats are holding up better. The freehold, the school catchment, the garden, those qualities still command full price. But in the flat market, the correction is real and documented. A patient buyer, a good solicitor, and an offer below asking is a combination that is moving properties in Hammersmith and Fulham right now. Newham is an East London borough of about 380,000 people, sitting just east of the city, anchored by Stratford and the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park, the borough that hosted the Olympics, the borough that was supposed to be transformed by regeneration, transport, and investment. And in one very specific sense, Newham has been transformed. It now has the highest proportion of new build properties of any London borough. 1 in every 10 property sales in Newham is a new build. That is remarkable. It also explains exactly what is happening to prices here. New build flats that were going to market at £500,000 to £650,000 during 2022 are now being listed and sold at significantly lower levels. Investors who bought off-plan during the pandemic and tried to sell on completion are discovering that the secondary market buyer does not exist at those prices. The competition between developer stock and investor resales in the same postcode for the same buyer has created a negotiating environment that is genuinely favorable to the patient buyer willing to look carefully. According to Hampton's analysis, more than 1 in 5 sellers in Tower Hamlets and Newham completed their sale in 2025 at a loss. That is land registry data, and it tells you exactly what leverage a buyer has in this market right now. The Olympic Park is real. The transport connections at Stratford are among the best in London. The long-term trajectory of East London is not in question. But right now, in 2026, you can negotiate on properties in Newham in a way that was impossible 2 years ago. That is the window. And windows in the London property market do not stay open forever. If you are still watching this and you have not subscribed yet, I respect the commitment to being difficult. I genuinely do. But hit the button right now, because the 8 areas still to come on this list include a borough where the average home fell £127,000 in a single year, a postcode where sellers are handing buyers £80,000 off the asking price just to close the deal, and a number 1 that has not offered this kind of entry point since the financial crisis. You came this far. Stay for the part that actually matters. Camden is an inner North London borough, sitting about 2 miles north of the city, home to Hampstead, Kentish Town, Primrose Hill, and one of the most distinctive high streets in London. Camden is not the kind of borough that ends up on a list like this. And yet here it is. The official UK House Price Index for December 2025 showed Camden down 11.1% year-on-year, 11% in Camden, where Primrose Hill houses overlook the whole of central London, and the streets around Hampstead Heath have not been affordable to ordinary buyers in 2 decades. The fall is concentrated in the flat market and in the parts of the borough further from the Heath. The streets of NW1 around Camden Town and Kentish Town, where the buyer base is younger, more mortgage-dependent, and more sensitive to rate movements, have seen prices adjust materially. A 2-bedroom flat in NW1 that was priced at £650,000 in 2022 is now being listed in the high £500,000 and negotiating down from there. For buyers who have always wanted Camden but could never quite reach it, this is your data point. An 11% fall on a £650,000 flat is £71,500. That is real money. That is the gap between what Camden cost 2 years ago and what it costs today in official land registry figures. The borough is not going to stop being Camden. The restaurants, the market, the park, the community, none of that has changed. The price has. And right now, the price is lower than it has been in years. Tower Hamlets is the inner East London borough running from Whitechapel down through Canary Wharf and the Isle of Dogs. It has the highest concentration of new-build residential development of any London borough. 7.2% of all housing was built in the last 5 years. And in January 2026, the official ONS figure showed Tower Hamlets down 9.5% year-on-year. That is nearly 6 times faster than the London average. The average house price in Tower Hamlets was £464,000 in January 2026. A year earlier, it was £512,000. That is a fall of £48,000 in 12 months on official data. For first-time buyers, the average purchase price fell from £492,000 to £444,000 over the same period. Those are not small numbers. Those are life-changing numbers for a buyer who has been saving for years trying to reach this market. The reasons the correction happened here are well documented. Remote work destroyed the Canary Wharf commute premium that the new build towers were priced on. Building safety issues affected the mortgageability of some buildings. Service charges on the larger developments climbed to levels that made the overall cost of ownership difficult to justify at peak prices. But for a buyer who has done their due diligence on building safety, who has checked the EWS1 fire safety certificate, who has confirmed the building has clean cladding certification, who has verified the service charge is manageable, Tower Hamlets in 2026 offers entry prices that have not been available since the Crossrail announcement first started moving this market. A patient buyer with a good broker and an independent solicitor is in a very strong position here. The City of London is a square mile of financial infrastructure in the heart of the capital. Around 9,000 residents, millions of daily workers, and a residential property market that has fallen harder and faster than almost anywhere else in the country. Official data shows the City of London down 11.2% year-on-year to February 2026. That is on top of falls in previous years. From the 2022 peak, the cumulative fall in the city's residential market is approaching 30 to 35% in many segments. A flat that sold for £900,000 at the top of the market is listing today at £600,000 to £650,000. The reason is one that is not going to change quickly. Remote and hybrid work has permanently reduced the value of proximity to a city desk. The buyer who was paying a premium to live inside walking distance of their office is now working from that office 2 or 3 days a week and is no longer willing to pay that premium. They have moved to Lewisham or Walthamstow, and they are not coming back. But here is what that means for the right buyer. Someone who wants Zone 1 London at prices that have not been available in Zone 1 for 15 years. Someone who values the architecture, the history, the transport connections. The city has more tube lines running through it than almost anywhere in London, without needing to be there for work. A buyer who does not need the proximity premium because they are not paying for proximity to a job. They are paying for a place to live. And right now, that place to live is available at a 30% discount to where it was 2 years ago. Kensington and Chelsea is the most expensive borough in the country, the Royal Borough, and it is down 11.5% in the 12 months to December 2025, according to the official UK House Price Index. The average home in the borough now costs £1.2 million, down from significantly higher at the peak. That number still sounds expensive. It is expensive, but context matters. In a borough where prices fell £155,000 in a single year, the official ONS figure, the buyers who do have the means to operate at this level are operating in a market where sellers are accepting discounts that would have been inconceivable in 2021. Data from Coutts shows that 45% of all listings in prime London underwent a published price reduction in the most recently measured quarter. 45%. That means nearly half of everything listed in Kensington and Chelsea had its asking price cut before it sold. The average discount achieved by sellers was 10.3% below asking. In a borough where the average home costs £1.2 million, a 10.3% discount is £123,600 off the asking price. The buyers for Kensington and Chelsea are not first-time buyers. They are people who have capital, who have been watching this market for years, and who understand that 2026 is the first time in a decade that this borough has offered meaningful negotiating room. Experienced buyers with experienced advisors are taking advantage of that room right now. Westminster is down 14.8% in the 12 months to December 2025, according to the UK House Price Index. It is the largest annual fall of any London borough in that period. The average home in Westminster is now £872,000, down from close to £1 million 12 months ago, a fall of £127,000 in a year. In Westminster, the areas within Westminster that have corrected hardest are the flat heavy postcodes, Bayswater, Paddington, Maida Vale. These are areas where the buyer pool depended heavily on international purchasers who are now facing a 2% additional stamp duty surcharge as non-UK residents, on top of standard rates. When that buyer steps back, the domestic buyer cannot bridge the gap, and the price adjusts until someone can. A 2-bedroom flat in Paddington that was listed at £1.1 million in 2022 is now completing in the high £700,000 when motivated sellers need to move. That is a correction of more than £300,000 from peak on a specific property type in a specific postcode for a buyer who knows where to look and is prepared to negotiate seriously. The Westminster postcode, the W2 address, the Zone 1 tube access, and the Hyde Park on the doorstep. None of that has changed. The price of accessing all of it has fallen by amounts that will not be available again for a very long time. Croydon is a South London borough of about 400,000 people, about 10 miles from the city centre, with direct rail to London Bridge in 15 minutes and Victoria in 20. And Croydon recorded a 3.8% annual price fall in 2024, on top of a market that was already underperforming. The flat market has corrected further still. Former rental properties, landlords exiting the market following the Renters' Rights Act 2025, are flooding the sales market, and some listings are priced 5 to 10% below what comparable properties were achieving a year ago just to move quickly. Croydon carries the weight of its council's Section 114 notice, effectively a bankruptcy declaration, in 2020. That reputational damage has been real, and it has shaped how out-of-area buyers perceive the borough ever since. But reputational damage creates a pricing discount, and a pricing discount in a borough with genuine transport connectivity is an opportunity for the buyer who is willing to look past the headline. The High Street is being actively regenerated. The Churchill Theatre, the covered market, the rail connections, these are not going away. And the buyer who purchases a Croydon property at today's corrected prices with a 15-minute train to London Bridge is buying a location that is a genuine bargain relative to any comparable commute time from a different direction. Barking and Dagenham is the most affordable London borough, sitting on the outer eastern edge of the capital. The Elizabeth Line, Crossrail, runs through it. The average house price in the borough as of February 2026 is £364,000, the lowest of any London borough. And the borough recorded the steepest annual price fall of any London authority in 2024, down 7.5% in a single year. Those two facts together, lowest price and sharpest fall, create a specific opportunity for a specific buyer, someone who wants London, who wants the Elizabeth Line connection that puts the city and the West End within 25 minutes, who wants a 3-bedroom house with a garden, not a 1-bedroom flat in a tower, and who has a budget that rules out the rest of the map. In Barking and Dagenham, £364,000 does not buy you a flat, it buys you a house. Proper house with a garden and a garage on a residential street. The same money in Zone 2 or Zone 3 buys you a leasehold flat with a service charge. In Barking and Dagenham, it buys you something a family can actually live in. The fall in prices here is real and it is documented. But the fundamentals, the Elizabeth Line, the proximity to central London, the housing stock, have not changed. The price has adjusted. That adjustment is what turns a market from an aspiration into a purchase for a buyer who has been saving for years and watching prices from the outside. Number 1 is Westminster. Not because it has the largest percentage fall, though at 14.8% year-on-year, it has the largest of any borough in the December 2025 UK House Price Index. And not because it has the most distressed sellers, though it has many of those too. Westminster is number 1 because it represents something that has not been available in the London property market for a generation. A genuine, documented, measurable opportunity to buy into one of the most prestigious addresses in the world at prices that are significantly below where they were and are unlikely to stay at these levels permanently. Here is the specific data. The average home in Westminster fell from close to £1 million to £872,000 in the 12 months to December 2025. That is an official fall of £127,000 in a year. In the flat market, where most Westminster transactions happen, the falls are sharper. Properties in Bayswater and Paddington that sold for £1.1 million to £1.3 million in 2022 are now completing at £750,000 to £850,000 when the seller needs to move. That is a correction of 30 to 35% from peak in Westminster. The mechanism driving this is known, and it is structural. International buyers, the non-UK residents who were the demand backstop for Westminster property at any price for 20 years, have stepped back. The 2% additional stamp duty surcharge for overseas buyers, on top of standard rates that on a £1 million property already run past £40,000, has made the purchase cost prohibitive for a buyer whose primary calculation is return on investment. And the non-dom tax regime changes of 2025 have reduced the tax efficiency of using London as a primary base for international wealth management. When that international buyer steps back, the domestic buyer who could never compete at those prices is suddenly in the room, and the domestic buyer has a mortgage, and the mortgage buyer negotiates, and the seller who needs to complete accepts the negotiated price. 30% of listings in prime Westminster areas came with price reductions in the most recently measured period. The average discount achieved was 10% below the already reduced asking price. In a market where properties are listed at £800,000, a 10% discount is £80,000 in the buyer's pocket on completion. Westminster, Mayfair, Bayswater, Paddington, the W1 and W2 postcodes, Hyde Park on the doorstep, Zone 1 tube access in every direction, some of the finest Georgian architecture in London, and a market that is, right now in 2026, offering the most patient and best-prepared buyers a discount to entry that will not be available here again for a very long time. Those are 10 London areas where home prices have fallen sharply and where the prepared buyer has negotiating power that did not exist 2 or 3 years ago. Westminster down 14.8%, Camden down 11.1%, Kensington and Chelsea down 11.5%, City of London down 11.2%, Tower Hamlets down 9.5%, Hammersmith and Fulham down 7.5%, and motivated sellers clearing stock fast in Croydon, Newham, and Barking and Dagenham. The headline that says London property always goes up is telling the story of outer boroughs where affordability is driving real demand. It is not telling the story of the prime central boroughs where the correction is documented and still running. Know what properties are completing at, not just what they are listed at. Negotiate from facts. Get an independent solicitor working for you, not the seller. Move when you are ready, not when the seller needs you to. The window open right now is the consequence of conditions: international buyer retreat, higher mortgage rates, building safety uncertainty, leasehold reform that will not last forever. Markets correct and then they recover. The question is always the same: were you in before or after? Subscribe, drop a comment, and tell me which area surprised you most. I cover London property every single day, and the data changes every month. See you in the next one.